The Beatles and Apple Negotiation, presented by Erica Wilson. News of Apple closing a deal to offer the Beatles catalog on iTunes prompted renewed speculation that the deal delay with iTunes had to do with bad blood between Apple and Apple Corps and EMI, the Beatles label, the corporation that controls rights to Beatles music over the use of the Apple trademark. The parties that were included in the negotiation was Apple, Beatles, Apple Corporation (EMI), which is the label that owns Beatles mastering recordings. Apple has closed the deal in 2010 which offered the Beatles catalog on iTunes. There was bad blood between the parties, Apple and Apple Corps, the corporation that controls rights to Beatles music over the use of that fruity trademark, which is the Apple logo. The positions and tangible requests for the deal was Apple gets to sell the Beatles catalog through digital streaming. Beatles get Apple's highest price, $1.29 a track. EMI gets to collect a portion of the profit through a licensing pack. Sources reportedly indicated that Apple's deal with the Beatles could mean that label EMI has entered a licensing pact with iTunes, which would allow royal payments to be made directly to the Beatles and Sony. The report noted that other major artists like Cheap Trick and the Allen Brothers have attempted to argue in court that digital download sales should be treated as licensing deals rather than equivalent to retail purchases. The interest and underlying interest was that Apple iTunes gets to sell the Beatles music catalog and the Beatles gets Apple's and uses Apple's publicity and promotional power. There were three negotiation concepts included in this deal, which was mutual benefit, objective criteria, and status. Mutual benefit was in the Beatles iTunes deals. For instance, both of them stand to benefit. Apple gets the chance to include the Beatles and their vast money making power in its offerings, and the Beatles get Apple's highest prices, which is $1.29 a track, and its publicity and promotional power from iTunes, which is considerable a perk for a brand that may be looking to sell to a new generation of CDs advisors buyers. Both sides, as well as EMI, get to collect a portion of the profits from expanding their audience. So everybody in the party benefited. So they all had mutual benefits. It was all a win win situation. The objective criteria for this deal was the trademark dispute. Apple and the Beatles' parent company, Apple Corporation, was engaged in a trademark dispute for years before it was finally settled in 2007, which also held up with the deal with Apple. Through status, the Beatles is one of the most selling groups that will benefit digital sales for Apple. Since EMI and the Beatles are so powerful, everybody wanted their piece of the deal. So negative emotions was displayed on both sides, which prolonged the deal because of the status of each party. EMI Music is one of the world's leading music companies, representing artists spanning all musical tastes and genres. So negative emotions were displayed on both sides, which prolonged the deal because of the status of each party, and each party wanted to show the power of their status. What went right about the deal? The parties eventually reached an outcome, and the Beatles got the highest price to sell for each song at 129. What went wrong during the deal was that it took a long time to get done. Mr. Jobs, Steve Jobs, has tried to make a deal with EMI and the Beatles many times before, but negotiations have always broken down, usually accompanied by a flurry of online rumors, accusations, conspiracy theories. This is what held up the deal. Further, further complications, the relationship between the parties, Apple Corp., the Beatles company, and Apple, the computer company, had been embroiled for decades over trademark dispute. So the trademark dispute is what prolonged the deal, which what did not go well in the negotiation deal. As for results, the parent company of the Beatles, Apple Corp., is receiving royalties directly from digital download sales via iTunes, while songwriting and mechanical royalties are paid directly to Sony ATV Music Publishing, which is why EMI will benefit as well from this deal. That suggests the royalty split could be more from the Beatles than it would be under the typical provisions of a standard artist contract, which treat digital downloads as a retail sale. This, this negotiation was important for digital streaming services such as iTunes. Each party eventually benefited even though it took a while for the fans to buy the Beatles music through Apple due to the trademark lawsuit.